Hello everyone, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'll be reviewing the first two-part Doctor Who series finale since... well, as an actual series finale since the Pandora opens at the Big Bang, as a two-part story since the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. Great one to end on, by the way, guys. Okay, so this story has had fans divided, some loving it, some hating it, and of course some just thinking, it's alright. To be perfectly honest though, I am very disappointed with actually what the finale had to offer. There were some aspects that were glad were addressed, but I felt weren't quite done right. Okay, so there are certain things I really liked about the episodes. I'm going to go over a few of them now, just so you get an idea that I did like this. I think the whole Clara choosing Danny Pink over the Doctor was a really good twist. I thought the ending with them both lying to each other and parting like that was a really good idea. Sadly, I think it was ruined by the fact that the BBC announced Jenna Coleman would be in a Christmas special, and I think even she mentioned it not so long ago, so yeah, it meant that we knew they were going to get back together at some point, and I don't think it was written in such a way that they were going to be permanently not seeing each other, basically. Which should be interesting to see the consequences of both of them lying. Another thing I really liked was that Gallifrey sequence, actually, where he looks out and realises it's not there. I thought that was an absolutely fantastic sequence, really well done. Yeah, I really like the Bond style freefall sequence. That was fantastic. I really like that. Very silly, but fantastic. And I think, you know, the way Missy or the Master or the Mistress or whatever you want to call her just casually kills Seb, I thought that was quite good. And I really like the sort of the very classic Cyberman feel. You know, you build them up and the Cybermen come out of their tombs, or well, there were tombs actually, weren't they? Big reveal, and they come out of their tombs and they're taking over the planet. And there comes problem 1 or 2. Okay, so in the cliffhanger, the Cybermen go out to take over the planet. We don't get to see that. I was very, very disappointed. I was thinking we'd get to see just the Cybermen going around killing people who would then sort of be resurrected. I thought that would be a really interesting idea to explore for Doctor Who. However, it wasn't used, and they just had people taking selfies with Cybermen, which I suppose in a way is realistic in that sense. But also the Cybermen can now fly. The Iron Man jokes, I think they could just about pass them off after Nightmare in Silver, but now all they need is arc reactor lights on their hands and it's complete. It is a bit annoying. I can understand why they had flying Cybermen. I just think it's a bit annoying that they fly in the same way as Iron Man as well. You know, if they had like jetpacks or something, might be able to get away with it. And of course then you have that little cliffhanger with Danny Pink looking in the reflection of the child in the iPad. It was actually an iPad, I'm pretty sure they did actually say it was. That wasn't tied up. That really annoyed me, and I saw that clip online before the episode and I was thinking, okay, that's kind of spoiled it now. He doesn't. So is that the first time we see Danny Pink, or do we have another scene? Because that doesn't clear up the cliffhanger. It doesn't. A Steven Moffat cliffhanger that isn't properly resolved. I mean, I think there are things in Doctor Who where you can just about get away with it. You can just about get away with a heck of a lot sort of just being left at the end of A Good Man Goes to War. The Doctor just leaves. He doesn't go and send Amy and Rory and everyone back to their own time or anything. He just goes off to find River Song and doesn't in the end. Very anticlimactic. Stuff like that. I just think it was very annoying in this episode, considering they were sort of building it up a lot. Also, on the subject of the child, the final scene where Danny sends the child instead of going back to see Clara again could have been cut. I've got to be honest, should have been cut, because the child is not even mentioned after that. Isn't even given a name, I don't think. So I think it was a good moment for Danny Pink. However, I don't think it actually did anything for the episode. It didn't do anything for Clara. And it came out of nowhere. There was no build-up as to the Doctor saying to Danny Pink, oh, this will work as a teleport or anything. Yeah. It's a sort of just because moment. There wasn't anything there to make it relevant, which was annoying, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think the direction and all the cinematography is fantastic. Rachel Talalay, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is apparently rumoured to do the Wonder Woman movie. Fine with that if it's anything like her direction in episode, in these 2 episodes. Fine by me. And of course, production design, as ever, was always very good. I think his name is Michael Pickwoad. He has a really awesome bow tie. Sorry, I just remember that. I think he's really good at designing the Cybermen and stuff. It really sort of pays homage to the classic series. I think in Nightmare in Silver and the spaceship sets and in the tombs in this story. Fantastic. Really glad about that. The dark water aspect wasn't touched on very much at all, so yeah, it kind of felt like a plot device to keep the Cybermen hidden until the cliffhanger, even though we all knew they were going to be in there, and it was a bit disappointing. And if you hadn't got the Cybermen were in the tombs before the door shut and looked like Cyberman eyes, then you're a bit of an idiot, if I'm honest. It's a bit too predictable, but in a way I think it was a good predictable. It's very much a classic Doctor Who twist. I'm trying to avoid the subject of the Master, or Missy, or whatever you want to call her, but I guess I'm going to have to address it. So, my thoughts on Michelle Gomez playing the Master. I don't think she's quite right. Maybe she will be better in future episodes. I think she was a lot better in Death in Heaven than in Dark Water, although she did have a couple of little moments in Dark Water. For the most part, I couldn't quite see the Master. I could see the John Sim version of the Master, and it wasn't explained very well exactly what happened. It's the Master, so I guess from the character point of view it wouldn't be, but it was very badly done. The Master, in theory, what they set up in the End of Time was that he wouldn't be able to regenerate. He was dying. Throughout the whole story, he would have regenerated if he could have. Either that, or he's being a bit of an idiot, trying to keep the same face like David Tennant was trying to. Not quite understood that. Maybe, Or John Sims Master and David Tennant sort of want to keep their incarnations intact. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, Michelle Gomez herself was very good in the role, good acting and everything, but she wasn't playing the Master, and I think that's partly because of the way she was written, partly from the way she played it, and possibly because of the way she was directed. She did have her mastery moments, but I felt it was very much like John Sims' Master instead of the Master, so it's a very disappointing first female Master. I'm not against the idea. I actually think it's a very good idea, but I think we need a different actress and a different writer writing a female Master, because Missy, the Master, the Mistress, whatever you want to call her, is very much like a typical Steven Moffat female character. I can compare her to River Song and Tasha Lem, I think that was her name from Time of the Doctor. All of those characters. Irene Adler even, there's a bit of Irene Adler in there. I just think it doesn't quite work, and she keeps on saying, oh, and bananas and everything. No, the Master's quietly insane is the way I've always seen it. And I think when he goes too over the top, that's not quite the Master. Or in this case, when she goes over the top. Even her costume was very similar, Her appearance, I just thought, no, that's just a typical Steven Moffat character. And that's what I thought when they showed that first picture of Michelle Gomez, when they dubbed her as the gatekeeper of the Nethersphere. Absolute rubbish, but oh well. Yeah, and also the whole thing that she can't be called the Master anymore because she's female, that's what was implied. I hope there's a different reason, because, yes, sexism and all that. So she has to be called the Mistress, or Missy. And I think The only reason for that, in Steven Moffat's thought process, was so we could have her introduce herself as Missy in Deep Breath, and for all the fans to be like, oh, who's Missy, and everything. No, I not even everyone had a theory. I had a couple of ideas which I thought would be interesting ideas to explore. One of the ideas I had was actually that she was Clara's mum. Hence why she said my Clara and everything. Perhaps it doesn't completely fit, but you know, she was dead and everything, so it makes sense she'd be in heaven. There was an interesting idea that she was a bit of a super fan of the Doctor. But her being the Master, it doesn't explain why she called the Doctor her boyfriend in Deep Breath, especially considering they are meant to be brothers or half-brothers. That was what was originally intended by the producers of Doctor Who. There was going to be, John Pertwee's final story was going to feature the Master, was going to reveal they were brothers. There was going to be a Paul McGann, I think it was going to be a series based around the Master and the Doctor being half-brothers going after their father or something like that. Because that was apparently part of Paul McGann's audition, which is quite an interesting story, but yeah, I seem to want to wreck on that. But yeah, why would she do that? Of course we have a Scottish Master, very Steven Moffat. I'm very disappointed out of all of the actors they could have gone for. I'm sure most of them were busy, but I don't think Michelle Gomez was quite right. Maybe if it was a different writer writing the Master, was actually writing the Master as the character should be, in the way I see it anyway, and had a different actress playing it, less insane and more like the Master, the cunning, just evil Master. Yeah, I just can't quite see her as the Master. I'm sure some people will go against that. And also, she doesn't really call herself the Master, and I think that's A, confusing, and B, annoying. So there you go. In fact, I was thinking throughout Darkwater, oh, she's Durrani. It kind of makes sense. Perhaps she's experimenting with brains. The Cybermen were all about moving brains into metal suits. It's a possibility. And it just didn't quite work. Yeah, it didn't work out that way. She's the Master. Yeah, maybe in future she'll be better. Maybe. And of course we had the Cybermen. This didn't particularly bug me while watching the episodes, but I think I suppose in retrospective almost, they didn't really do anything, and I felt the Cybermen were slightly wasted in the second part. I think, considering it was an hour-long time slot, there's something like, they could have had like 4 minutes extra. I think it was something like 56 minutes, it said on iPlayer, and I just thought, wait, so they had an extra like 4 minutes, and they didn't want to do any more of, you know, the Cybermen invading the world or anything. That was disappointing. Yeah, I was okay with their design last time, but I think now I'm not a big fan of these Cyberman designs. They're not quite working. I was okay with them at first. Now they're just becoming so much like Iron Man that it's difficult to see them as the Cybermen. Although I did like the fact they were reinforcing that those were people inside, even though we seem to have forgotten about the Mondasian Cybermen and Telos and everything. That's probably for reasons of that continuity was really mucked up and everything. But yeah, I don't know, I don't think the Cybermen have been done quite right. Maybe they should just give the Cybermen a rest for a long time. Saying that, Steven Moffat did the Cybermen better than they have been done in most of the Steven Moffat era episodes in Closing Time, for example. I mean, yeah. Okay, so of course Danny Pink dies, but I feel like he died because someone had to die in order for them to go to heaven to lead the Doctor and Clara to meet Missy. I felt he sort of went through it and thought, oh, Danny Pink can die, that would be a surprise to the audience. I think it came ever so slightly too early in Darkwater, and because Danny never really established a proper character, it never really got to me. Well, I think Jenna Coleman did a fantastic performance in those grieving sequences. No, I never really cared that much about Danny Pink anyway, so he sort of died and hopefully that is the last we'll see of him, because otherwise that destroys the fact that he died. Again, I've talked about that last scene. Should have been cut. And him turning into Cyberman, that was a really good idea. I don't think they quite experimented with that as much as they could have. You know, Clara still loves him at this point. If he didn't love her, what would that do to her? They didn't want to explore that, which was a real shame, and I think perhaps there should one day be a Doctor Who spin-off involving the Cybermen, so we can see a bit more, I suppose, of an adult perspective of the Cybermen, almost experimenting on perhaps the gory elements and the really horrifying moments. Speaking of adult, apparently the cremation aspect was too adult. I think that could have been cut, if I'm honest. I think it perhaps was a bit too dark for a lot of people, as far as I can tell. A lot of people weren't very happy about that. Some people didn't mind it. A lot of people I personally know didn't seem that bothered by it. But I know that quite a few people were bothered because they sent in complaints to the BBC. I think they should have cut it. They should have cut it, and I don't think it was a necessity in the episode. So again, that could have been cut. I think it was perhaps a step too far. However, I do think the episode was very good at keeping its sort of dark tone, and that worked really well. Of course, it turns out in the end that the Master, or Missy, whatever you want to call her. See, this is the problem I have. I can't just call her the Master. She's Missy. She's all of this. It turns out she wants to build this army for the Doctor to use. This feels like something Steven Moffat wrote in while writing Death in Heaven. I don't think that was the idea he had. And I understand the idea. The idea behind it is very good. The Master trying to make herself not seem as bad as the Doctor, or worse than the Doctor, whatever. It didn't work. It just didn't work. And I think it felt like such a late addition. Maybe it wasn't, but it felt like it when watching the episode, that it just didn't quite work. And then of course Danny Pinkle sends the Cybermen up to blow up and save the world. How that saves the world, I've got no idea, but sure, it's Doctor Who, I'll let it pass. Yeah. Of course we had Osgood's death. A good idea, not very well executed. I don't think we never really got to know Osgood well enough to really care when she died. It was more of you sort of like her. That's about it. You don't really get to know her as a character, so I don't think it had the impact Steven Moffat was hoping for. But yeah, I mean, okay, so of course the episode ends. We get a mid-credit scene with Santa Claus, played by Nick Frost. The pun in that. I can't say what I'm looking for to Christmas special or not. I'm intrigued by it. Can't say any more than that, really. I'd like it to be good. It looks interesting. It looks very dark and creepy. So that should be an interesting Christmas special. If not, then dear, gotta sit through another Doctor Who Christmas special. They don't seem to have the best track record. But yeah, I mean, we seem to have gone through these 12 episodes very quickly. So yes, overall, Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Oh god, I haven't even mentioned the 3W. That was... I'm pretty sure there was meant to be this idea that it was an ever-lingering company. That wasn't explored. As much as it could have been. And it was the 3W greetings from Nessie to the Doctor. Let's not talk about that. This review's already going longer than I was hoping for. So overall, I'd give Dark Water and Death in Heaven an 8 out of 10. It misses the mark in quite a few places. Saying that though, it's a very enjoyable story. There were lots of moments I really liked. My personal favourite moment being the Doctor Bond style freefall, and Jenna Coleman did a fantastic performance. Everyone did a fantastic performance, and we did have a sort of arc conclusion to Peter Capaldi of him finding out whether he's a good man or not. He realises he's neither. He's not a good man, he's not a bad man, he's an idiot in a box, which I think should be interesting if they do go on to explore that. Should be interesting. So yeah, what did you think of Dark Water and Death in Heaven, and what did you think of Series 8 as a whole? Let me know in the comment section below. So, thank you for watching, and thank you for watching if you've been watching all, what would be 11 of the Series 8 reviews. And I'll see you guys, well, in Christmas, if not before, for another Doctor Who episode review. I just wish this series could have ended on better.